My landlord thought he could keep my $4,000 deposit by lying to a judge's face. He had no idea I had documented every single interaction, every text message, every maintenance request, every phone call for the entire 3 years I lived in that property. This is not a story about luck. It's a story about what happens when you treat documentation like a habit, and someone else treats their tenants like they're too tired or too intimidated to fight back. I rented a townhouse from a man named Greg for 3 years. He seemed reasonable at first, a little slow to fix things, but nothing that raised a serious red flag. The heating unit took 6 weeks to repair in January. The ceiling fan in the bedroom rattled until I mentioned it in writing 4 times. These things happen with rentals. I documented every one of them, but I didn't think much of it. That changed the day I gave my 60-day notice to move out. Greg's response to my notice was immediate and strange. Within 24 hours, he had replied saying the unit had sustained extensive damage during my tenancy and that the deposit would not be returned. No details, no photos, just that phrase, extensive damage. I had lived in that townhouse with the kind of care most people reserve for their own property. I had repainted a scuff mark on the hallway wall myself. I had replaced a cabinet hinge that came loose. I asked Greg for specifics in writing. He stopped responding to texts. What Greg didn't know about me was that I had spent 2 years working in property management before becoming a renter. I understood exactly what landlords were legally required to provide, what timelines they had to follow, and what documentation gave a tenant the strongest possible legal position. Every maintenance request I had ever sent Greg was saved with a timestamp. Every text message archived, every email backed up in 2 places. When he stopped responding to my deposit request, I wasn't panicking. I was waiting. 30 days after move-out, Greg sent an itemized damage claim. The list included replacing flooring throughout the entire unit, a full interior repaint, new cabinetry in the kitchen, new light fixtures in 2 rooms. The total he claimed for damages came to $9,200. For a townhouse I had left in better condition than I found it. I read the list twice. Then I went to get my copy of the move-in inspection report. When I moved in 3 years earlier, Greg and I had walked through the property together and signed a move-in inspection report documenting its existing condition. I had kept my copy in a folder, along with every other piece of paperwork from the tenancy. I contacted Greg and requested his copy of the same report. He claimed he could not locate it. His exact words were, "I seem to have misplaced that document. Convenient. I had mine." That move-in inspection report was, in legal terms, the entire case. It listed, in Greg's own handwriting and with both of our signatures at the bottom, the worn flooring in the living room, the outdated cabinetry, the scuffs on the walls, the existing light fixture that was already cracked on arrival. Greg was charging me $9,000 to replace things that had been worn, outdated, or damaged before I ever moved a single box through the front door. Under the law in my state, a landlord cannot charge a departing tenant for pre-existing conditions or for normal wear and tear. Greg was claiming both, and he had signed his name to the proof. I filed a small claims court complaint. In my state, landlords who withhold deposits in bad faith can be required to pay the tenant up to 3 times the withheld amount as a penalty. Greg had initially stolen $4,000 from me. By filing that complaint, I had turned his bad faith decision into a potential $12,000 mistake. He did not know that yet. I suspected he was about to find out. The hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning 6 weeks later. I spent those 6 weeks preparing a paper file that I could have navigated with my eyes closed. The signed move-in report, time-stamped photos from move-in day showing the pre-existing conditions, time-stamped photos from my final day showing identical or better condition. Every text message from Greg, including 2 from the week after I moved out where he described the unit as looking fine, and asked if I had remembered to leave the garage door opener. Those two texts were going to be significant. Greg arrived at the courthouse with a folder of printed photographs and a look of complete confidence. He clearly expected this to be straightforward. He had a list of damages. He had photos. He had a number. He had not seen my folder. The judge reviewed the move-in inspection report first. She read through it slowly, then pulled up Greg's itemized damage list and went through it line by line. The flooring replacement he had billed at $900 was already listed in the move-in report as worn and scheduled for eventual replacement by the property owner. She looked up at Greg. He had no response. Then Greg made his final mistake. He argued that my move-out photos were taken at a different time and didn't reflect the actual condition of the unit when I left. He suggested I might have taken them weeks earlier. The judge asked to see the photo metadata. Every image taken on a smartphone automatically embeds the date, time, and GPS location at the moment of capture. My move-out photos showed a timestamp of the afternoon of my final day in the unit, taken at the address of the property. Greg had not known about photo metadata. I'd been counting on that. The ruling came quickly. Full deposit returned. Bad faith penalty applied. Total judgment against Greg, $12,000. He sat at the defendant's table and stared at the surface in front of him while the judge read the decision. The two text messages where he had described the unit as looking fine were entered into the record. The judge specifically cited them in the ruling as evidence of bad faith. I heard through a mutual connection that Greg had to take out a short-term loan to pay the judgment. I also heard from a former neighbor that he now conducts his move-out inspections with a licensed property management company and returns deposits within the legal window without dispute. Sometimes the best outcome isn't just winning. It's knowing that the person who tried to take advantage of you had to change how they operate because you refused to let it go. Here's what I want you to take from this story. Every time you move into a rental property, document everything on day one. Take time-stamped photos of every room, every surface, every existing defect. Keep every text message. Send maintenance requests in writing and keep copies. It takes 20 minutes, and it's the single most powerful protection a renter has. Have you ever had to fight for a deposit? Tell me in the comments what happened. And if this story taught you something useful, there is another one waiting for you right now.